Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching Saint Maud. Saint Maud is a story about a newly devout Catholic hospice nurse who tries to save the soul of her patient. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. Why? Because this is an A24 horror film, so you know that something sinister is in store. So I don't want that to be ruined for you in the slightest if you dare watch this movie. So you see where this is going, probably another painfully vague review. Sure you love those. But hey, at least it might be short, right? Okay, let's be real, it's probably not gonna be short. Let's start the pros with the direction, because this movie f***ing had it. It kind of has a double meaning of sorts. Like, obviously I'm referring to the director being the orchestrator of all elements of production, but I'm also referring to just the direction, the orientation of the film. Like, if every element in the cocktail that is this movie were an arrow, they would all be pointed in the same way. Everything about this movie is in sync. It's all on the same page to give you a truly unnerving experience. Like, literally every single one of your senses are going to be hit with discomfort. The lighting, for example, this movie was very grimly lit. It had a very good balance and intentional use of both light and shadows. Like, you see lamps and other sources of light throughout the frame, but none of them feel like they're putting off enough light. Like, you could see a room full of lamps, but everything still just feels dark and gritty. The color palette is very drab and muted, making everything just feel so dead and lifeless. With a few exceptions, but of course they divert in a very methodical way. For example, a conversation between our titular nurse character and the dying patient in the dying patient's bedroom. The room is very dark besides a warm colored lamp sitting on the nightstand. We have one shots of each of our characters. The one shot of the dying patient is strategically placed so that she is physically blocking the only source of light, being the lamp on the nightstand. As a result of her being placed blocking the only source of real light in the frame, the tones on her face are very cold and dead. Meanwhile, the one shot of Maud, the nurse who's saving her soul and whatnot, has it strategically placed that the light is fully illuminating her face, making it very warm and rich colored. Coincidence? I think not. This movie just looked so chilling, and it sounded all the same. The soundtrack takes you on the most unnerving journey imaginable. Like, half the time it didn't even sound like music. It sounded like just noises or really deep bass hits like Inception. It puts you into a weird headspace, like you feel uneasy listening to it, and when the music dies down, the sound design is equally good. Oftentimes it was a dead silent scene to really accentuate walking up an old creaky staircase, or some gross sound effects to accompany some really gruesome body horror. Every single production element in this movie was working with each other to give you just the most unsettling movie experience. If even one element was not in sync with everything else, despite how great it would be, it would lessen the impact of everything else. But as a result of everything working in perfect harmony, it made this film feel so buttoned up, and the atmosphere just feels so heavy. It is truly a deep, dark descent into madness. Like, this is not a fun, poppy horror film that you go to the theater with your friends, get a little spooked at jump scares, and have a good old time. This is the deep, methodical shit that haunts you to your core. But saying all that, even if you have like the perfect harmony in your production elements, it kind of doesn't mean anything if you don't have the perfect A game coming from your titular character and actress, which, my God, we had. And my deepest apologies, young lady, because I'm totally about to butcher your name. Better yet, no, I am not. You deserve better than that. Here is your name. May it continue to live on and thrive butcherless. She absolutely crushes it here. Like, this character, this performance really forces her to stop at every single point on the spectrum of emotion to portray this poor girl dealing with some serious going on in her noggin. I do not know what kind of crazy stuff one needs to channel to summon this kind of range, but she absolutely killed it. However, I will say that I think that I heard her voice a little bit more than I'd like to via narration. I've mentioned in previous reviews of my mixed feelings toward narration, that it can be a very useful tool, but very easy to abuse, and I think that this movie kinda did a little bit. I personally think that narration could be a very effective tool to accentuate dialogue, but I never think that it feels as connected as dialogue feels. It just never hits as close to home to hear some mysterious voice from above chime in. However, despite the fact that we sort of had like a narrative cheat code and excessive narration, I still felt like there were some narrative plot gaps present. Obviously gonna wade pretty shallow here, but the movie hints at a few very key pivotal events that happened before our time with the characters, and it kind of gives you an idea, like a little taste of what happened, but doesn't give you as clear of a picture as I wish it would have. Speaking of pictures, while yes, I am a huge metaphor guy, especially of the visual variety, I feel like some of them in this movie were a little too hokey for me. I could definitely see past them. It wasn't terrible, but it was just I don't know, a little out there. Finally, I also think that the movie lacks a little bit of rewatchability. In a lot of ways, this movie reminds me of The Witch and Hereditary. Oddly enough, also A24 horror films. They're all very deep, dark, unsettling movies, the kind of that crawls under your skin and takes a little siesta. For me personally, despite the fact that horror is definitely my favorite genre by far, these kind of deep, dark movies are not ones that I watch multiple times. I don't watch them very casually. Don't get me wrong, I freaking love them. They are all great, and I always give movies like this a very high grade, but it's almost like I don't want to put myself through that again emotionally. Like, they're almost too damn good at what they do. But that being said, deep, heavy movies like this are often layered. They're like onions. With each viewing, you kind of learn a little bit more about each aspect. This movie, however, I just don't feel compelled to watch it again, at least not at this time. But like Hereditary, for instance, I wanted to watch that again immediately because that was a mystery. I wanted to see all the pieces move into place again now that I knew what was up. And while yes, I do think I would benefit from a second viewing of this movie, I don't know, I just feel like I absorbed all the emotion that there is to absorb out of this movie in one viewing. Like, I don't know, I can't really put my finger on it. I just don't feel it. This kind of makes it sound like I didn't enjoy the movie, but that is absolutely not the case. All in all, I really dug this movie. It is a slow, methodical, dark burn that really pays off in the most disturbing way in the third act. And really, the movie is short, like it's less than an hour and a half. So yeah, the first two acts kind of move a little slow, but it's really not that long of a movie. It's a nice, tight, up little bundle. It is certainly not for everyone, but hey, if you want to sit in the shower by yourself later in the fetal position, who am I to stop you? I'm going to give Saint Maud a B+. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe. Thanks for checking in.